This is an overview of photosynthesis. Well, photosynthesis can be divided into two reactions. The light reaction, also called the Hill's reaction, the dark reaction, the Calvin cycle. Photosynthesis takes place, as mentioned earlier, in the chloroplast of a cell. Sunlight is absorbed by chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is made up of chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, xanthophyll and carotenoids. It's chlorophyll A that absorbs the maximum amount of solar energy. Chlorophyll B, carotenoids and xanthophyll also absorb energy and they transfer it to chlorophyll A. What happens to chlorophyll A? It gets highly excited. The electrons are also emitted. They are all high energy electrons. Well, this energy brings about the photolysis of water. Photo means light, lysis means splitting. Now water is split up into hydrogen ions, hydroxyl ions, and a lot of energy is also formed. Now this energy brings about photophosphorylation, that is ADP, adenosine diphosphate, gets linked with inorganic phosphate. You must be wondering where all this is coming from. This lies in the cytoplasmic pool. That's the whole reaction, that's the light reaction, takes place in the granum of a chloroplast. When ADP and inorganic phosphate combine with each other, they give you ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate, which is the energy currency of the cell. All energy transactions take place through this molecule ATP, I repeat, adenosine triphosphate. What happens to the hydrogen ions? The entire process of photosynthesis is actually facilitated by a number of enzymes and coenzymes which function as hydrogen acceptors or acceptors of electrons. These hydrogen ions are locked on to NADP, a coenzyme, nicotine adenine dinucleotide phosphate, and this gets reduced and its reduced form is NADPH2. In the light reaction, remember, a very important gas is evolved, and that is oxygen gas, and oxygen is the byproduct of the process of photosynthesis. The important points to remember about the light reaction are: it's totally dependent on light. It takes place in the grana of a chloroplast. The grana is made up of a number of thylakoids which are like coins placed one over the other. During light reaction, water is split up to evolve oxygen gas. ATP molecules are formed. NADP is reduced to NADPH2. ATP and NADPH2 are the basic requirements for the next process in photosynthesis, that's the dark reaction. The Calvin cycle is the dark reaction of photosynthesis. The very word dark reaction tells us this reaction is independent of requirements of light from the sun, but it heavily relies on the products of the light reaction. And the products of the light reaction which ensure that the dark reaction take place are ATP and NADPH. Let's begin. Our starting point is a 5-carbon pentose sugar, that is ribulose phosphate. 6 molecules of ribulose phosphate are converted into ribulose diphosphate by taking in 6 phosphates from ATP, that is ATP is changed into ADP and inorganic phosphates. This part of the Calvin cycle is extremely important, where really carbon dioxide is being fixed. Ribulose diphosphate absorbs 6 molecules of carbon dioxide to form what is called as PGA, that is phosphoglycerate molecules or phosphoglyceric acid. Now, a number of intermediaries are formed. PGA changes into DPGA, that is diphosphoglycerate, and finally into PGAL, that is glyceraldehyde 6-phosphate. Focus your attention here. These changes, that is beginning from PGA to PGAL, are brought about by ATP and NADPH. The important point to note here is phosphoglycerate or glyceraldehyde phosphate molecules contain only 3 carbon atoms. Remember, we started with a pentose sugar that is having 5 carbon atoms in it, whereas in this case the product, that is glyceraldehyde 6-phosphate, contains only 3 carbon atoms, which means as we calculate ahead you will realize 12 molecules of PGAL are formed. 2 of them are utilized in the formation of an hexose sugar, that is glucose. 12 of them are recycled back to give us the 5 molecules we started with, that is of ribulose phosphate, which is a pentose sugar. Now coming to the calculation of carbon atoms. 6 molecules of ribulose phosphate, each contains 5 carbon atoms. So the total number of carbon atoms at this point is 30. They are fixed to another 6 carbon atoms because carbon dioxide is being fixed, 6 molecules. So the number of carbon atoms become 36. But as I mentioned earlier, you will find that glyceraldehyde 6-phosphate, these molecules contain only 3 carbon atoms. So when we have 36 divided by 3, we will get 12 molecules of glyceraldehyde 6-phosphate, of which only 2 of them, that is only 6 carbon atoms, get involved in the formation of glucose. 30 of them get back into the Calvin cycle, so we get our 6 molecules of ribulose phosphate back. To sum it up, what have been the requirements in this process? 18 ATP molecules, one step here. This is the other point where ATP is being used. So altogether 18 ATP molecules, 12 molecules of NADPH, carbon dioxide from the air, and 6 molecules of ribulose phosphate.